And so we are going to have now a look at some more lesser known by foreigners classic Thai Buddhist Somdej amulets in sacred powders. And this first one we can see is in Ner Pong Naman oily herbal pollen powders, and is a Prat Somdet Ner Pong Naman from Prat Ajahn Toh of Wat Anongkaram, released in the year 2518 BE. And we can see the rear face here. You can see it's Ner Jat Hang, quite powdery and dry. Has probably absorbed moisture at some point to achieve this kind of texture. And this particular model has Tutakrut inserted into the base. Ner Pong Naman, this being from 2518 BE. I'm recording this in 2562 BE. So that's like 54 years later. You can see that the sacred powders still look quite wet. That's because of the oil instead of water mixture. And so now we look at another amulet, which is the Prat Somdet Pim Toh, which was blessed in the Piti Indochina wartime ceremony edition, which is one of the 4 largest grand blessing ceremonies of amulets in the history of Thai amulet making. Yeah, and considered one of the most powerful ceremonies ever, which was really blessed and released in the year 2484 BE. Had to think there. 2484 BE, and is made almost completely from powders of broken Prat Somdet Watrakang amulets. Yeah, and this was released by Lumpur Support, but was blessed by about 94 different famous monks. And here is the rear face. And you can see this, the Yan Pu on the back, which you see often on the Indochina War ceremony edition powder amulets. Not all, but you see. And here we have the Prat Somdet in Ner Pong. This is Tek Lang, has crackly effect, and it is the Pim. They call it the Pimbok Po. Pimbok Po Ki Hanuman, the Bodhi tree Buddha riding Hanuman amulet. But you don't see much of a Bodhi tree on the amulet because of the age and the texture and the changes that have occurred during the time since its making up to now. As you can see, the Buddha is sitting on top of the monkey god Hanuman. Yeah, very, very nice amulet indeed. And this was released from Wat Pikun, yeah, Ner Jat Hang, very dry. Beautiful amulet. Hu Bai Si ears, and Gate Yao, very long top knot. And here is the rear face. You can see very smooth. The scratchy lines are because it has been laid out to dry on Maikadan blackboard, on a blackboard or plywood. You could call it plywood if you like. Sometimes they'll lay it on marble, on stone, on wood, on different substances, which gives different textures to the rear face of the amulet. And in the same edition, they'll do that. They'll do that depending on what surfaces they have available to dry the amulets out on, which is why you have different effects on the rear surfaces of amulets like Prat Somdej Wat Rakang of Somdej Toh Pomrangsi. The backs of each amulet, you can find noticeable differences. So, the next one is the Somdej Toh, which was in a very, very large ceremony at Wat Sutat in 2516 BE, with 49 very famous great monks present for the blessing, including Luang Toh of Wat Padu Chimpli and many others indeed. This is a very nice design. Very nice design of Somdej. I call this Tan Mon, cushion dais, because it's like he's sitting on 3 cushions. And the rear face, very smooth, as you can see. You can see horizontal lines and some scratchy lines. So also, once again, laid on Maigadan on a wooden surface to dry after pressing. And here we have the Somdej Brokpo Khao Tat, which means like cut knees, Khao Tat, Run Rag, first edition, Niyom, preferred version, yeah, from Luang Po Art of Wat Ban Chang in Ayutthaya, released in the year 2495 BE. And as you can imagine, this is a very, very rare amulet to see, indeed, very rare, because not many people know of or collect except local devotees and the older owners from that era, yeah. The Somdej Brokpo Khao Tat Run Rag Niyom of Luang Po Art of Wat Ban Chang in Ayutthaya 2495 BE. นื้อจัดแห้ง once more, very dry, powdery effect. Yeah. And here we can see a Somdej Patep พระราชทานงานประกวดพระผงได้รับรางวัลที่ 1. This is a first prize winner from a competition which was supported through royal support, and this is the Somdej Patep. Patep is the royal princess, the daughter or the sister of the current king, His Majesty Rama X of Thailand, yeah, or the daughter of His Majesty Rama IX of Thailand, yeah, and this is the Somdej Patep. And this is also the Somdej Patep out of the box. If you can see in the box, you can see the crab on the right hand side of the amulet, the powder formation, and here it is again. Very, very, very fine powders. This is something to do with the tamra of making muan san, ponglop yantra powders from Somdej Toh, but also from the temple of Wat Prap. When you see Somdej or powder amulets with this kind of texture, you will know that you can surmise that the master has passed the Vicha of learning how to make powders according to the process taught by the masters of the lineage of the temple of Wat Prap, which of course was the temple of Ajahn Sang, who in collaboration with Somdej Toh created the Prat Somdej, which has now become known so famously as Prat Somdej Wat Rakang, Prat Somdej Bang Khun Prom, Prat Somdej Wat Gechayo, Prat Somdej Wat Intravihan, which is Bangkok Prom, the same, yeah, and so on, and Somdej Wat and other temples where Prat Somdej Wat Rakang were found. And here's the rear face of the Prat Pong Somdej Parajatan Sit Thamma Kun ได้รับรางวัลที่หนึ่ง from the Sit Thamma Kun getting a first prize. It was in celebration of their first prize. And this amulet is the Somdej Wat Gechayo, Pim Wat Gechayo. You can see it's a Wat Gechayo style amulet. The powders are not so yellowy as from an original Wat Gechayo. This is from Wat Pasat Punyawat, the 2506 blessing ceremony, which was the fourth and final major historical blessing ceremony in Thai history, to be considered of the four greatest ceremonies ever held in all of the history of Thailand. Yeah, using Muan San, sacred powders from Prat Somdej Wat Rakang, which can be seen visibly within this amulet, of course. And here's the rear face. The chip on the corner shows very wide inside. Typical of Prat Somdej Wat Rakang is the same. Whatever color or texture outside, if you crack it inside, you will see it's white. But you will see the particles if you look under the microscope of different Muan San. You can see these red stains on the back. It just comes from how it's been kept in the group. Yeah. Or it might be rust from casing. There's 100 reasons why you could have different effects on the surface of an amulet. Slight cracking here of the shrinkage of the wet clay as it dried. You don't see these scrapey lines so much. You do see them, but not so much. So this clay probably was not so wet when it was laid on the Maigadan, because this is also visibly laid upon a Maigadan to dry out, a blackboard. Yeah. And this is the Prat Somdej รูปหลังรูปเหมือน Somdej with cameo image on the rear face of Luang Po Te, of what Luang Po Te Kong Thong, yeah, of Wat Sam Ngam, so famous for his Kuman Thong amulets, #1 master of Kuman Thong amulets in the history of Thailand, and was released in the year 2516 BE. Yeah, and you can see on the rear face, of course, here the image of Luang Po Te Kong Thong, yeah, and the akara in Khom from top going clockwise. Na su nu ja re nu su, and the bottom line is actually a put, and then the 8 and the 9 and the to, so it's putto and 89. So it will have been for his 89th birthday, I would assume. Yeah. So if we looked at his birth and death dates, which I can't remember off the top of my head, 2516 BE was probably in celebration of his 89th year, because it has the number 89 in Thai, and the Kata Putto and Upate Kong Thong written in Thai, yeah, and Na Su Nu going clockwise, left, top, right, and then to the right, and from top to the top left to the middle left would also be Na Su Nu. So it's Na Su Nu Song Krang, symmetrically, And below Luang Por Teh, to the left, the letters are Re, and to the right is the letter Ja. Yeah. Re Ja. Na Su Nu Ja Re Nu Su. I don't know what this kata contains for meaning, by the way. Cannot know every kata, and this is particular to Luang Por Teh, for sure, decided by him and compiled by him, and will be encoded by him, and therefore very difficult to decode. I can decode most, but that one, right at the moment, I can't. And they once again, Somdej Wat Get to your Wat Prasad, Punyawat 2506 BE. And the Somdej Parajatan, Somdej Patep, Parajatan, Rangwan Tinung, amulet with the back face in the box. And the Somdej Bokpo Kautat, first edition, preferred from Luang Por Ot of Wat Ban Chang in Ayutthaya from 2495 BE, especially rare. So some of you may have this amulet and may think, I wonder what it is, and nobody knows what it is or can tell you what it is, because very few people know what this is. This is not a Somdej that everybody knows. Yeah, Wat Ban Chang, Luang Por Ot, 2495 BE. And here we have the also from the Indochina ceremony, Wat Sutat. Yeah. And with 49 monks blessing, including Luang Toh, from 2516 BE. And once again, the Prat Somdej, Nơ Pong Pim Bok Po, Ki Hanuman, Nơ Chat, dry powders, from Luang Por Huan of Wat Pi Gun, Luang Por Huan of Wat Pi Gun. And here we have the Prat Somdej Pim Sien Toh, the big-headed Buddha, which was also blessed in the Indochina ceremony at Wat Sutat, from released by or commissioned through Luang Por Support in the year 2584 BE. I have a problem with numbers. 2584 BE was released. I believe the first at the beginning of this podcast I said the wrong date. It is 2584 BE was the release date, and made from Pong Somdej Wat Rakhang. And I believe he used wan, and he mixed more namantang iu tang oil in than Somdej Paputachan Toh did with his powders, which gave the Wat Sutat edition a slightly more yellowish texture instead of a whitish one. Whereas with the Wat Prasad edition from 2506 BE, which also uses Pong Somdej Wat Rakhang, you will see much more white powders. Yeah. So there you go. That was a look at, and have one last look at the Prat Somdej Nơ Pong Nam Man of Prat Ajahn Toy from Wat Anongkaram in 2518 BE. Very nice amulet indeed. Nơ Chat Hang, as you can see, very dry and powdery from exposure to moisture, with Tutakrut in the bottom. So there you go. I gave you a run through from start to finish, and then backwards from finish to start. And that was, I believe, episode 6 of my series of classic Thai Buddhist amulets. And this I think I will call classic Thai Prat Somdej amulets. I'm not sure what I'm going to call this when I upload it to YouTube. So here's Ajahn Spencer on my own channel, and for the Buddha Magic Project, and ancientamulet.com, signing off.